This morning when I woke up, like a lot of photographers, I thought, I really want to have a day out with my camera. And like every other photographer that I know, the problem was, where do I go? The possibilities are pretty much endless. I go anywhere. And you kind of get paralyzed by the choices that you've got. So then I jumped on my map for my Vestige project, the project I've been working on for well over a year now, and picked a location, and well, here I am. I'm in a beautiful Northumberland coastal village called Almouth to photograph what I hope to be some ruins of a church on some sand dunes. And on the way up, I was thinking about projects and why I think they're so important for photographers to have. And this is one of the reasons. It just gives you somewhere to go. And I thought maybe I can make a video about 7 different reasons why I think it's imperative for photographers to have some sort of project on the go. And that's what I'm going to go through in this video. First, I need to try and find this church ruin because it looks to be in the sand dunes, and I don't even know if it's still there. I could only find a couple of photographs. So in the distance, miles in the distance, I'm actually not too sure whether this is the route to even get to it. But the good thing is I can see the ruins of a building just at the sort of foot of the big sand dunes. That's on the opposite side of the bay to Almouth, the little village. So at least it's there. How I get there is a different story. But I think the first reason why I think projects are so important is really because there's plenty of days where you actually can't get out and photograph stuff. You might want to, the lighting might be horrible, the weather might be terrible, you might finish work late and it's dark, and I don't know, you might not be able to just get out of the house. What ends up happening is you'll scroll through Instagram, you'll watch YouTube, you'll watch videos or read reviews of gear that you didn't need, but there's nothing else better to do. And because photographers are very interested in the hobby, and we are quite a dedicated bunch, we were willing to put in the time. But the time isn't spent particularly wisely, and it can often lead to gear acquisition syndrome, which may be the reason why I got this and most of my stuff. Now, having a project for me in them instances helps massively, because I can sit on Google, I can go around and I can have a little look on Google Maps for churches and buildings that would fit the project. I can pop them on little pins dropped on the map, so when I've got some time, like today, I open the map, pick a pin, drive to it and see what's there. You can spend some time doing some research, spend some time looking at other people's projects that may have covered a similar topic that might give you inspiration for your project. But the key thing is you're spending time working on something that you're really interested in and that you really like. And it's great. It changes everything, because that dead time isn't dead anymore. But ultimately, every single day that you have that time, you're working on something that relates to the project. Something good, something that's going to contribute at some point. So that's the first reason. I think it's one of the most important reasons, and definitely one of the biggest game-changing reasons, is just gives you something to think about that's positive when you actually can't get out and take photos. Another thing that I thought of on the way up is the weather's not really great for photography. The light's so harsh, I can barely see where I'm going. It probably shows even on the video. But having a project as well, because you're not trying to find them like honeypot photos, like the 1 in a million, you're not wanting to get super over dramatic, incredible Instagram banger shot. You're trying to build like a cohesive body of work, something that'll work in the project. And sometimes there's just normal photos, average things, they're almost snapshots. Some of them in the church that I've taken have been kind of stuff that you would maybe take on a mobile phone. Normally, I'd be disappointed if I was just coming out to try and take photos of anything, because I want that lovely photo, I want that beautiful, iconic scene and incredible orange light or whatever. But when you work on a project, you're not bothered about that. It helps you just accept normal. You're chipping away, constantly chipping away. And even if it is a boring photograph of some books next to the organ in a church, I need some of that. I might need that for the finished book in the end, I don't know. And it kind of helps just keep your chin up a little bit, lift your spirits when you come out and the light's not great and your photos might not feel great. It doesn't matter. Pop it in your little collection, look at it further down the line. In worst case scenario, you've tried something, it didn't work, and you got out with your camera, which is more than you would have done otherwise. at least I know for a fact the church is there. I can see it. You'll not be able to see it on that because it's a little action cam thing. It's not very zoomed in, but the church is there, and there's a cross on the top with the little village behind it. So once we figure out how we get to the church, we're laughing. It hasn't got a roof or anything on, it's tiny. But I think it was called Church Dunes or something on Google Maps when I found it. And again, it was just a matter of moseying around on Google Maps, and I seen a little church icon. I thought, oh, we'll have a look at that. And here we are. And it's much warmer than it should be. It's frosty, and I'm sweating me back off. It seems from here that there's actually another building where there's a ruin as well next to the dunes. I didn't see that on Google Maps. I don't know what it is, but I'm going to get a photo of this tree first because I really like the look of it. I think the third point is development as a photographer. Because if you're working on a project, say for example like mine is, which is of churches and showing the contrast between different churches, you're not taking the same photo. You can't when you're working on a body of work, you can't just take the same shot. I suppose you could have a project where you take exactly the same shot, but for mine specifically, I'm not. I'm trying to find different angles, different things that'll show off kind of the differences between each of these buildings and try and make something where not every photo looks the same but still tells the same story. So I think development as a photographer is a big thing. It really will help you try and look in a different light, in different ways, different compositions and everything else at a subject that normally remains quite consistent throughout. So yeah, that's definitely the third point, what I really enjoy actually. So there, where you can probably see the big dunes, there's the big building there, and I'm going to photograph it because I don't know what it is, and it could well be something that would fit this project perfectly. I don't know because I don't know what it is, but I'm going to photograph it anyway as long as I can get to it. I think this might be the first shot potentially from here. I'll see. I have got my 50mm in my bag, so I think I'm going to put it on. It's a 50 Voigtlander 1.5 version 2 in silver. I like it, it looks nice, but the 35 is going to be a bit too wide for this, so I'm going to quickly swap lenses, which I rarely do and rarely ever bring two lenses if I'm honest, but I think I like how this blends in. I don't know if it's a church light. It does not look like a church, it looks like an old barn or something, but you never know, we'll grab that. Another thing I've done, because I hate not having a focus tab on my lenses, and this Voigtlander come without it, I've actually 3D printed one which is there and taped it on, double-sided tape. So yeah, if you want one, get in the comments, email us from my website and I'll post you one. Just pay for postage. The cost is next to now to make, and I think the cheapest I find to buy were about a tenner each. So as I tentatively try and make my way across this sheet ice, which I'm recording mainly because it'll make great content if I do fall out on my arse, I thought I'd get to the next point, which is often like the constraints that you set on yourself for a project really do spark creativity. And the project could be anything from shooting stuff on your doorstep only on, as an 85mm prime. Not an easy lens to use in that kind of instance, but that as a project forces you to think outside your box, because you can't shoot how you normally would. You're not going to shoot stuff out and about normally, locally, on things more than maybe 50mm, generally speaking, for most people. So by forcing yourself to use something you wouldn't normally, you're going to force yourself to think differently from what you normally would. And again, in terms of development as a photographer, it's a great way to go. And you do feel much more inspired when you're doing it that way. And I pause there because, whoop, well, nearly told you, this could be potentially the angle that I was wanting, maybe. So you can kind of just see the building there, and it kind of follows the theme of the whole sand dunes and the way the top of it is. So I'm going to grab this photo from this little bank as well while I'm here. Let's do that. I don't think that's got now to do with the church. And if it has, at least I've got a couple of photos to at least log it and remember it by the next time I come back. But now we're off to the main church. As we head there, since it's not very far, I'll talk about the next point, which is that it helps you become better at telling a story, because you're trying to build a narrative around the project. And I mean, you have to be open to the narrative changing and the project changing. You can't just force it down the path you want it to go down because that's what you want. You kind of have to let it be what it's going to be. But you still need to try and find a way in your photos to tell that story, show the story, show what the project's about. Like I say, for me, I'm really trying to show the contrast in churches. And that's quite a broad subject, but it's not really when you look at it, because you've got the contrast just in how grand some of them are. You've got the contrast in how many people are in a specific church compared to another specific church. You've got the contrast of the location of the church itself, the condition of the church, the lighting of the church, how ornate it is. There's so many different ways that this one can be done that I'm trying to hopefully tell all of them different stories in a way that works. So yeah, it helps you think differently, rather than in photography normally we look and think, is that pretty? Yes, take that photo. I mean, we still try and do that, but you have to think a little bit more broadly than that. It can't just be about whether it looks pretty and exclusively that. It needs to have some substance as well. One thing I have noticed recently, and any Leica owners, can you give us a little bit of advice for this? This is the Summicron 35mm f2. It's the version 5, the ESPH, spherical lens, and it's got pretty bad lens flare. Even with the hood on, it's much worse without it on. When I've got like a yellow filter or something on shooting film, it's horrendous. But just had a quick look at them photos and the lens flare. I mean, I am shooting almost into the sun. May also be why, and maybe I'm just used to more modern lenses because this one's obviously a little bit older. But is that a common thing? Should I just expect? I don't mind it so much, but I just didn't expect it. So if you can let us know in the comments about that. The penultimate reason as to why you need projects in your life and in your photography is they are incredibly rewarding. Now, I've only really finished, well, I suppose it was a big project, but last year, as I've mentioned in a previous video, I'll put a link to it, I decided to print a photo book every single month for the entire year, which is what I ended up doing. I've just sent off December's to get printed, so that'll cap that full year off. I'm going to do it again, and I am going to make a video all about how I do it. But just that as it is, a project that you dedicate a good chunk of time on. You spend a lot of time taking photos, popping stuff together. It's incredibly rewarding to look back, especially physically. And I would hugely suggest, no matter what your project is, print your work, get a physical thing out of it, because for me that's what really makes it. And with Vestige, this project that I'm working on, the ultimate goal of this, which I will do, even if it's just one, is it's to make a physical book. I want a cloth bound book, like a cloth book or a linen book or whatever, on the back end of it when it's finished. And even if it's just one and it's just for me, that's what I want. So yeah, they are incredibly rewarding. I have also made in the past a zine called 4 Mile Loop, and it was just a project that I'd done at home on a 4 mile walk pretty much outside my house. And I've done that in a full month of February last year, so almost a full year ago now. And I have still got a few copies of that left. I actually ordered too many, I didn't mean to. And what I'm going to do on that, if anyone just wants a little bit of inspiration, it's not spectacular at all, it's just some black and white film shots. I like it, but it's a personal thing to me, is I'm going to put a discount code in the description, and if you put that in, you'll get the zine for free. Just cover the postage, I'll send it out, and if it inspires you to do something, great. But yeah, seeing your work printed makes all the difference. But here we are, we're actually there. So there's the church, or chapel, or whatever it is. It's tiny, and there was something here as well. I don't know what this was. And there's not a lot of this left, whatever that was. But the little chapel looks great. It's in a fantastic little spot. And the final reason why I believe that you need a project if you haven't got one already is just personal growth and development, because I didn't know that I would like photographing any of this sort of stuff till I started. And it started because of the 4 Mile Loop project that I'd done at home, and started moving more into more of like a documentarian style photograph. The less spectacular, the normal. I love photographing normal stuff. Never did before. If there was any sign of human habitation or anything there that man had made, didn't like it at all. Had to be in the middle of Scotland in the back arse anywhere to get anything, or at least I thought that I liked. I'm the opposite now. If there's no sign of people, I'm not a massive fan. But yeah, so that's that. Like this actually. Well, as you can probably tell, the photos that I took today weren't particularly good. The harsh light, the low sun, the blue skies, yeah, it wasn't particularly good. But at the end of the day, it's a place that I needed to visit to see whether it would fit the project. I don't think it really will, but again, I've contributed to something. I've worked on something that may end up being in the project. I doubt it, but I still done 6 and a bit miles, had a nice walk, some fresh air, and took some photos, which is the key thing. But I did mention at the beginning of the video that I was going to go over some tips for starting projects, and I've got them here because I did forget to mention them in the video. So the first one is to start small. Don't overcomplicate your project. It needs to be something simple, something easy, something that you can work on and that's accessible. Ideally, you want something that's local, something easy for you. I have previously, as I mentioned, done a project where I just done the 4 mile walk that I do now on every single day, and I photographed it for a full month to see kind of what it was like doing it that way, and I was surprised how much was on the walk that I hadn't noticed prior to starting the project. It's a great little thing. The second one is to choose something that you're passionate about. You need to have something that you're actually interested in, because you want ideally to really be engulfed by, I mean, probably not a great word to use, but something that inspires you to spend some extra time researching, looking at things, thinking about the project when you're not actually out photographing. That's key. The third one is to set some goals that are achievable. It's pointless trying to set some sort of huge project where it's like you want to go off on a road trip for a month if you've got no means of doing that. Like you're just going to disappoint yourself. It's pointless setting a project in a location you're never going to be able to visit, or for a time frame that's just not realistic for you. And the last thing is to just be patient. With this project specifically, I honestly thought I would have it all wrapped up within a year. And if I'm being completely honest with you, I would say I'm further back in the project now than I thought I was about 2 months in. And I'm about 14 months in now. I feel like now I'm starting to get some clarity about where this project wants to go and where I should be taking it. And that means that a lot of the stuff I took previously kind of doesn't fit anymore. And that's okay. I'm not in any rush. It's about the journey, not the destination. And although I'm looking forward to seeing what the project looks like at the end, I'm not in any rush to get to the end. And that's new for me. I'm always wanting to see things finished off and rarely enjoy the journey, but I'm trying to. So that's probably the key tips I would give. As I mentioned, if you're looking for any help or any advice on projects, and maybe you've got one, maybe you're thinking of starting one, you want some tips, some tricks or maybe even just someone to talk to about it, there's a link in the description where you can pop us an email from the website, fill in a form. I'll get back in touch with you as soon as I can, and we'll talk things through, see if I can help in any way. But thanks for watching. I apologize for the very mediocre photographs, and I'll see you in the next one.